With the delay of the final shape from February to June, Bungie created a free content drop to make up for the drought that was kind of indirectly created, with a new option for the New Light campaign, new activities, as well as a limited time event that's possibly one of the best things that have been done in Destiny 2. Now, like I said before in the previous review video for Season of the Wish, this is a separate video, so if you have not seen the Season of the Wish review, go check that out. I do have it in the description just so you can kind of access it at the same time for this. But with that being said, let's actually start off reviewing Into the Light. Now, I would start off with talking about the new Light campaign, but the only thing is that I don't have any experience with it. Because I have started since day one, the New Light campaign hasn't really been much of an impact on me, so I can't really talk much about it. But what I have seen from videos, tweets, and other things that have shown up, apparently there is a somewhat massive improvement as it gives New Light players like the armor at the power cap, and so instead of having to go through the entire grind, you're already given just what you need to be able to do whatever you want, and you would also be able to skip through the actual introduction quest and allowing them to have decent builds set up just right off the rip. And I think that's great. Honestly, giving them the ability to just hop right in, not have to do some useless, pointless slog, and then kind of being left to your own devices with the Guardian ranks kind of helping out with giving them a guide, does give a little bit of a benefit for that, because when it came to originally, it was just you do the introduction mission and then you're just kind of left to your own with no real guide. So the fact that they do have these Guardian ranks involved, as well as essentially skipping that original quest and giving a decent build for people to play with, does make it a lot more easier and a lot more appealing to people who are just getting into the game. Now, even though this again doesn't impact me as much, it at least is going in an improvement for new players to hop in. Now, focusing more on stuff that veterans would know, they did bring back 2 exotic missions that were vaulted back before Beyond Light. The 0 Hour mission and the Whisper mission. Along with that, they also did provide us with crafted versions of both the Whisper of the Worm and Outbreak Perfected, so that we would be able to utilize them in more capacity than they were originally. Now, I do enjoy the fact that all the weapons that they have been bringing back for the exotic missions have been craftable, and it's the same with 0 Hour and the Whisper. As of right now, the weapons have been in a better state. There's been reworks on the Whisper, so it actually is a more of a viable option, and the perks that are provided both on Whisper and Outbreak are really, really good, depending on how your style of play is. On top of that, they did keep the missions the original, with only the changes being within the puzzles that will allow you to upgrade your weapon and also get you that famous ship that they have put in the previous ones. The cool part is that everything else, it's still the original. Only difference really outside of it is the time frame, but let's face it, as long as you know the original pathing for it, you wouldn't really need to worry about the time. Now, obviously, when it came down to everything, I think this is a great way of kind of bringing it all back. Just because, one, you have this situation of having that nostalgic factor of bringing these missions in, however, still keeping it fresh by changing the puzzles and changing the ways that we gain the Calus and the other upgrades. So instead of going to different locations with a switch and picking up a card, we would go to do a puzzle and then do a actual combination puzzle at the vault, so that we would be able to get it for 0 Hour. And then for the Whisper mission, instead of just finding all these random chests everywhere, we get to actually just shoot the oracles for the actual parts, so that we can have the upgrade as well as the ship. Now, each of these also have a quest lines connected to them to upgrade it into the 3 levels above hand, so that you are able to gain some more benefits out of that compared to what you would have originally. And I think it's awesome that they brought this in, just because, one, I always enjoyed going through these back when it was available within Forsaken, and helping others going through it as well. But with that being said, let's move on from the stuff that they have brought back and more into the stuff that they introduced for the first time. First thing I want to talk about is the new activity of Onslaught. The way that it essentially is that it's a tower defense with a mix of a horde mode, where you have, depending on what activity you choose, you either have 10 rounds, or if you want to go the full way, you can go up to 50 rounds, essentially with it getting harder and harder each 10 waves. The good part is that you do have some upgrades that you are able to access, like turrets, tripwires, and decoys that you can upgrade 3 times. Especially, I highly recommend getting the decoys because you can bring in more checks, and it's awesome. But in the simplest way that I could say it, I love this. I have really wanted some type of horde mode in this game, because as much as that there was like the strikes with the high level of density, you know, like a flare as well as the saber strike, it wasn't a just straight up like, hey, you have to fight waves. In this case, I think that this is possibly one of the best things that they have done. It's really, really fun, and also you get a ton of loot, and they even updated so that you get more of an incentive to stay within it, because obviously there were certain farms that you were able to get a little bit sooner. Now, with that being said, the guns that you do get from the Onslaught is really nice. They have brought back a lot of the old favorites from the DCB, as well as they did bring in a couple of weapons from the raids, and a new rifle that you would be able to pick up underneath Calus' rifle. They brought back Blast Furnace, Luna's Howl, Mountaintop, Hammerhead, Fallen Guillotine, the Succession is now in there, Forbearance, Midnight Coup, and with the anticipation where you are able to get not only better rolls, but you could also randomize them to even get a better combination, it makes it more of an incentive to actually grind the Onslaught, because you are able to get those weapons, and on top of that, you'll be able to get Brave tokens that you can redeem in the Hall of Champions for other weapons. Now, there is also the option of utilizing those Brave tokens just for the armor pieces. However, it's not really a useful thing to have, just because, again, you only need to get it once, and you're better off just using it all to grind out the weapons. The way that these work is amazing. For a limited time, they did have a shiny version, meaning that you are able to get a cool little ornament along with 2 rows of perks that will give you more options and more viability. However, again, by the time this comes out, or likely by the time that you're watching this, it is over. But the great part is that they are keeping Onslaught in the system. They're not removing this, and I think that's amazing, and I think they really need to keep this in, and hopefully when it comes to it, the more weapons that they add in, when they do loot refreshes, the better perks come in and more of a reason for me to grind it. Because honestly, as much as I do enjoy just going through it wave by wave, getting the weapons at a much better rate as well as getting awesome perks on them definitely does make it a lot easier for me to be able to waste hours upon hours for that grind. Now, the final thing that I do want to go over in this is actually a temporary event, but possibly one of the best things that Destiny had ever brought at all. The Pantheon. Now, the Pantheon is a 4-week activity which could also be seen as an event, because obviously it is leaving at the end of the season, and essentially is just a boss rush. You go up against bosses from all different types of raids, and each week they actually increase it and give you another option for more bosses and a higher power level gap, just to actually make it more of an intense situation. It starts off with 4, and then for week 1, and then once you get up to week 4, you have to go through 8 different bosses in total, which is awesome. I think this is amazing. I love it. There's so much stuff that I want to talk about when it comes to this, just basically off on the Pantheon. But the amount of stuff that we were able to do when it came to actually running through them is amazing. To give you an idea, you are able to get, at each encounter, you are able to get some additional raid weapons that, may be associated with any of the encounters within that week. So you can get weapons from, from the Taken King raid. You can get it from the Deepstone Crypt raid, Last Wish raid, Root of Nightmares raid, depending on the week itself. And it's great because you have that option to do so. And then on top of that, you also, if you hit the high score threshold, you are given a one time of an adept weapon. And again, same thing happens with the other weapons. It could be from any of the encounters for any of the raids that are connected. So you can get herald weapons, adept weapons. You can also get, stuff from Root of Nightmares if you're doing Caretaker, and vice versa if you're doing Nezarec, for example. It's awesome. I love it. And the cool part is that they also made this into a achievable thing by also creating a seal that you can use called Godslayer. Now, again, you have to hit each of the high scores for each of the encounters on all 4 weeks, along with completing it to be able to get the seal. But the awesome part about this is that kind of time frame for the high score, including within the seal, makes you try and work harder for finishing up those bosses at a much faster time, because you do get a bonus if you finish it before a certain amount of time, which normally forces you into either a single damage phase or a 2-round damage phase, which does help exacerbate the whole efficiency, the working together, and making sure that you hit all your shots perfectly to get that seal, rather than just going through it, completing it, and then finishing off the rest of the counter no problem. The awesome part is that, again, this is something that is coming through just as a temporary thing. Personally speaking, I think what they should do is that they should bring something back like the Pantheon, and maybe change it up so it's not just only boss rush, but you also have other mechanics being involved. Like, for example, you have the security system from the Deepstone Crypt. You could also have maybe the first encounter from Vow, where you have to deal with the symbols. Another one could be one of the other mechanical ones that have shown up. And hey, if possible, maybe utilize some of those old vaulted raids and bring those encounters back in, because that would be really cool. I think they have so much of an opportunity to kind of expand on this to the point where it could be just a recurring seasonal item that you are able to go through and actually process. Because honestly, as much as I do enjoy doing it like once again, that if they were to set that up where you have multiple different seasonal Pantheon run type situations, I would be farming that the entire time. To give you an idea, I only guilded Conqueror once. If Pantheon were to come back, I would guild it every single time it's available, because honestly, I love this. They did a very, very fantastic job with this. The additional changes to the encounters, making it so that you have to switch up the original actual process for how you take care of the encounter. Like, for example, doing Riven legit. The fact that you are forced to do Riven on the actual intended way, instead of just going up to her leg on one of the actual floors and just beating the crap out of it. It's so good and so refreshing when it comes to it. Again, I can gush about this the entire time, but I really do hope that this does come back and in a more fleshed out state, because just for the short amount of time that they made these changes, they did a really, really good job when it came to it. And I can't praise them enough for this. Now, looking back at the entire aspect of Into the Light, for something that was made in such a short amount of time, Bungie has pulled off something that pretty much no one can hate. Sure, there might be a couple of things that may come in the way, but ultimately this is possibly one of the best things that they have ever done. The amount of entertainment that the activities provide is amazing, and then also there's a lot of other stuff that I haven't really touched upon, like for example the small mini quest that has you following Archie all over the system and find out exactly what he's up to, and also in the end getting a couple of gifts that I am not deleting. I don't care. I'm not going to delete all those cute little items that we got from the adventures. It's adorable. I love them. I'm not going to do anything about that. And also beyond that, we also have, you know, the introduction back of Super Black from Destiny 1, which you are able to get by doing all the quests and ranking up shacks within the Brave system to max, which is great. It gives us another idea of what to have for that, but it also gives us the incentive on doing grinds as well. So again, overall, I think that when it came to this system, this entire content drop, I honestly would give this a 9 out of 10. Like, again, for something so short, you know, shortly made as kind of a stopgap, it's awesome. I love it. I think this is great. I think they need to do more of this, and I hope to God that Bungie is able to take the feedback that everyone's been giving and actually kind of adding this in so that we can get more like this, but instead of it just being something that's temporarily there, it could be more of a permanent solution for different activities, and also giving us some side stuff to do outside of the normal seasonal activities that they will be adding in the future. Now, with all that being said and done, this is going to be the end of the video. Thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Again, just going to be reminding you, if you haven't seen the Season of the Wish review, you can check that down below in the description as well. And also, you will be able to get the full Let's Play of Into the Light as well in the description too. But until then, I'll see you in the next review.